It's a packed day at the NATO summit, which is currently underway in Turkey, and the US president has made a series of scathing remarks targeting different countries and different points of contention. In the latest, Trump has launched a scathing attack on Iran hours after the US military carried out strikes across several cities in Iran. And responding to a question on whether the MOU and the ceasefire is dead, the US president said that from his side it is. Here's what he said.
Is the ceasefire done? Is the MOU dead?
It's a very interesting question. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people.
In fact, other issues that Trump has stressed upon again, the claim that the US has been unfairly treated by its NATO allies. To the American president's long-drawn concern, NATO chief highlighted the bloc's actions to increase defense spending with more involvement from other member countries.
So there is complete commitment to NATO. But hey, there's also an expectation. And the expectation was and is that the Europeans and the Canadians will equalize their spending with the United States, which I think, and many of the colleagues in the room today think, is completely fair. Now,
in an earlier statement, Trump revived the Greenland territorial ambition again. The American leader pushed for US control and said that the territory should not remain under Denmark's authority. In fact, hitting back at Trump's remarks, Denmark's Prime Minister said that Greenland was not for sale. She urged all allies to respect the people's right to self-determination and Denmark's territorial integrity and sovereignty. In fact, leaders of 23 member states are in Turkey, remember, not just for the summit, but the Defense Industry Forum being held alongside the main event. Inter-alliance budget sharing in defense remains a sticking point, not just for Washington, but also for the European counterparts who are being pushed to commit a significant part of their country's GDP to the NATO's budget. How much of that pledge is realized by the end of this summit is the big question. All right, let's go straight across to William Denslow with us live from Turkey and has been tracking those developments very closely. I have to begin by asking you for the larger picture here. You know, Donald Trump stressing on what he has so far when it comes to the NATO allies' lack of support is what he claims, and also the reassurance in a way that's coming from the NATO chief. Just piece together for us what the sentiment on the ground really has looked like.
Well, heading into this summit, we'd got a bit of a sense from the Trump administration exactly where their expectations lay. We know that Pete Hegseth, the US Secretary of Defense, has set really a 6-month window for Europe to ramp up defense spending. This is all part of President Trump's envisaged NATO 3.0 that would essentially see Europeans taking control of Europe, allowing the US to withdraw some of its presence from the continent to focus on other conflict theatres around the world. Now, based on that, this summit was all about deliverables and showing that the commitment seen last year in The Hague, Netherlands, the last time that NATO leaders had gathered all in one place, to turn those commitments from that summit of annual defence spending from 2% to 5% come the year 2035 into tangible action. In other words, we've seen this huge pool of cash committed by a number of NATO allies over the past 12 months, but turning that into tangible hardware. We've heard from NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. He says that you can't defend the alliance with lira, with dollars, with euros. Instead, you need hard capabilities. So that was what this summit was all about, convincing the Trump administration that, yes, its other 31 NATO allies are taking defence seriously. But based on President Trump's comments, they seem to have fallen on some deaf ears.
Right, and the other crucial aspect here, among many others, is how Trump has reignited the Greenland control debate. We've seen those comments coming in from the Danish Prime Minister as well. To what extent do we see this impacting what is expected to unfold at the NATO summit and perhaps even overshadow the outcomes there to a certain extent?
Well, very much interwoven with that wider debate about European defence spending, whether it's contributing enough. The Trump administration has long maintained that Europe is not doing enough to keep US strategic interests safe. When it comes to Greenland, the Trump administration says that based on a rising presence of Russia and China in the high north, then more needs to be done to protect Greenland, which is a semi-autonomous part of the Danish kingdom. Now, the Trump administration has again called for US to take control of it based on national security concerns. We've had a sharp rebuttal from Mette Frederiksen, the Danish Prime Minister, saying that she and her country is committed to defending every inch of NATO territory. That very much includes Greenland. So once again, this shows that despite European allies pledging to spend more on defence and pledging billions of dollars in new arms contracts over the past day or so here in Ankara, seemingly the message from President Trump remains that that the Trump administration does not think that Europe is doing enough to keep US interests in Europe secure.
Indeed. We are leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much, William Denslow. Of course, Donald Trump also had that crucial remark as a part of that, also saying that the deal, the ceasefire with Iran is also over. So we'll, of course, have to wait and watch what else unfolds in terms of those remarks coming in from the US president.